Gigi Berardi here, reading FoodWISE, and I'm still in the introduction, and I begin a subsection of the introduction called Being FoodWISE in the Kitchen. But really what I am writing about here is making not just FoodWISE choices, but sane choices. And I'd like to extend this again tonight to the university. I record these videos at night. And to my university milieu. And I have some articles that I think you'll enjoy that I'll comment on. So, lofty philosophies only get us so far if we don't put them into practice. So being food wise in the kitchen means being realistic about what you can and can't do. Stop, think, then act. We won't all make the same choices. We don't all live the same lives. What we can do is foster the food wise attitude, a little feisty and a lot informed. That doesn't mean that low price and convenience don't matter. They do. Inexpensive organic is welcome, yes. Yet our grandparents, mine at least, from rustic Italy, would be horrified at the idea of shopping for plastic wrapped tomatoes that still aren't ripe when you bring them home, or valuing organic, in quotes, produce from massive farms. Then there's the phenomenon of Trader Joe's, the grocery store company. Well, I don't mean to knock lovers of $2 Chuck wine. I have to point out that Trader Joe's, its produce and products consumed by many, is too conveniently just around the corner for many. The chain's message can be insidious. Don't cook tonight. We have so much prepackaged, ready-made, and delicious food. Throw your dinner parties, feed your family healthy, in quotes, snacks, and cheap, chic wine. Further, we've seen a flood of greenwashing, labels touting many healthy, in quotes, or environmentally sustainable, in quotes, things, when it's mostly just washing, and when it's mostly just deceptive spin. Sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between what's greenwashing and what's real. Being food wise doesn't mean knowing every environmental fact about food, but rather being curious at least about how food is produced and prepared, even if this means merely knowing what type of animal products are represented in that veal cutlet. If you are deeply and passionately involved in eating, perhaps with family and friends, then knowing how to cook and where your food comes from is part of being informed. As you shop more and more knowledgeably, you'll learn about what grows near you and when, how to prepare different fresh produce and meat products, which items must be used immediately and which last a few days. You may start seeing things a little differently. For example, you may realize how strange it is to expect a ripe avocado or sweet orange out of season. Food-wise shopping goes hand in hand with our lessons about farming. Losing that intuitive connection with the seasons and the availability of certain items is the price we've paid for things like convenience and long shelf life. Cooking food-wise isn't whipping up a perfect souffle or staging Instagram-worthy plates. It's learning to put together some tasty whole food dishes, even if with just a few simple ingredients. It's finding sources of local and fresh foods and becoming familiar with what's available in what seasons. It's experimenting with a few new foods or ways of cooking, even if just a little bit. It's connecting with your friends, and now we do this with social media and on Zoom to learn about other places to find ingredients or other ways of preparing foods you're familiar with or new dishes altogether. How we value time is also critical to the food-wise debate and practice in the kitchen, on the farm, at the store. Do farmers buy chemical pesticides so they can spend their energy and labor elsewhere? With our own food choices, do we invest in shopping and carefully preparing by hand an intricate menu, or just heat something up in the microwave. I'm going to stop there for tonight because I do want to draw your attention to this idea of sanity and compassion, self-compassion, but also empathy and compassion for people and situations, especially now during the coronavirus pandemic. So I had mentioned an article from the Chronicle of Higher Education that questioned university behavior, posture, and position. So what do students want now? What are they going to want in the fall? With shelter in place, guidelines, restrictions, mandates still in operation, and we'll know soon if that is indeed the case, how should universities respond? Does it make sense to pay $75,000 a year to go to an Ivy League institution? Perhaps if you're on scholarship. But many people don't have that option. Even students on scholarship, and I mentioned this in an early vlog, are choosing to stay close to home. We're going to need to be consumers, informed consumers of online delivery of education. What's the best? Who has the most experience? Where's the compassion? Where's the practical wisdom, the sane choices, the empathy to students and what they need, and maybe even what they're experiencing? Maybe it's food they need and not education. In my own department, we've been talking about ways in which we can serve the students. I'm not convinced it's not just providing food. At the very least, we need to provide the very best online education that we can. And Western Washington University, my university, has been singled out, as has Central Washington University by the state, as having flexible grading policies. This is what we need to do in higher education. And I have a link to another article that suggests, this is from the Seattle Times, that perhaps every student should be getting an A right now at the high school level, at the college or university level. I don't know, but these are important questions to deal with. And I am so glad that at my university, there's so many people who are willing to try and be empathetic. I give a shout out to one in particular, a good colleague and a good administrator, and that is Ryan Larson, our Education Abroad Director. And I look forward to working with him and partnering with him more on delivering education abroad in many different ways, some of which makes that education abroad experience more accessible to more students. I give a shout out to my alma mater, not really alma mater, but where I once taught, Allegheny College, which is now carbon neutral, and I talk about that a little bit, and how proud I was to be part of the faculty there at one time. But that's just it in FoodWISE and education-wise and transportation-wise and household-wise. If we're all trying just a little bit to be more empathetic, to be willing to experience, to gain practical wisdom, and increase our understanding and appreciation of what others might be going through, then we're going to get there. We're going to get to a sustainable and culturally sensitive future. And that is my ideal. If we're all trying a little bit, then we'll get there at some point.